weekend, heading to MLS Cup in Frisco, Texas.
10th year Major League Soccer and LA Galaxy.
Yeah, we needed to get something in place that said what the players were going to get and what it meant to be a player in Major League Soccer, and that was the most important thing. The contents of the deal and what we were able to get was almost immaterial, but to have something on paper that we could build on was the most important thing, and we had an understanding amongst the players and amongst Bob and John that was the goal. And so it was a very collaborative process with Major League Soccer to get that done. And I thought that was the most important thing at the time.
You just didn't see how this was going to become sustainable, certainly as a professional sports league. But so in 05, I think for a lot of us was to make sure that the league kept going and make sure there was stability.
From the get-go, our goals were to create a bottom-up organization that had a lot of player involvement, and that's, we're still, that's still the guiding force, and that you never sort of reach that. You're always pushing for that, to have it be perfect, and to get a collective bargaining agreement that locks in at that time some basic rights, very basic rights that the players did not have.
I think the league knew where they were going with it. I think for our side, the players' side, we quickly realized that, they call it collective begging instead of collective bargaining, that we were going to have to ask for some things and, not to be overly dramatic about it, but then kind of hope that they would give them to us. And so I think as we started to figure out what we wanted to ask for, there were more lifestyle changes than they were, just asking straight up for money. And I think we felt like asking for lifestyle changes made more sense at the time. Let's just kind of some of the low-hanging fruit that would not get fixed unless we did this. Let's ask for those things first. And I think we were able to say to the league, these things won't necessarily cost you money. These are just some changes here, some shifting there to make life better for the players.
Any improvement is improvement. And so absolutely we felt that. And again, it's really easy to look in the rear view mirror, but when you're going through it, you're playing a role at a point in time. And that's where the league was at that time. And so, of course, as players, we're trying to get as much as we want and deserve, what we feel like as players we deserve. And so, yeah, that was a big moment in 05.
The first CBA is an interesting experience because although we were realistic about what we were going to be able to accomplish given the circumstances, you still have to fill in a whole bunch of provisions to have a full CBA, most of which take real negotiation. So there's a lot to negotiate even when you don't necessarily feel like you're getting that much. So that's part of the reason it took as long as it took. In terms of priorities for the first CBA, we really had so many things that we needed to fix. And this is true really for the first three CBAs. On some level, we were able to get to the table and see where we were getting traction in areas and sort of pursue those more than other areas because there was so much that had to be fixed. We knew we were going to have to fix it all eventually. We generally always have to have an eye on the long game and what's going to come next. And it's not just about the moment or what we're trying to accomplish right then. It's about what is this move setting us up for the next time we're together and the time after that. And that was certainly true for us from the beginning.
It was the first time that I felt like a proper captain, where I was really thinking about my team and these players and everybody in the league in a much bigger way and trying to see them as 360 as possible, not just my teammate and what they can provide for me in those moments on the field to help us win games, but also what are we doing to help them protect their families and to make sure that if something bad happens, that they have some kind of plan and there's a plan in place for them to work through whatever that may be. And I don't think I felt stressed like that before. And so throughout the CBA negotiations, I could feel it, like a physical toll of trying to understand what my team wanted. We're hearing from players that aren't necessarily born in the States, also born Trinidad, Argentina, Spain. Like, we're getting all these other insights, and they're coming with their own experience. Like, why would we ever be treated like this? Back where we're from, this is what happens. That's all good information for us. But you're trying to get everybody in a spot where, one, they have to know that a strike is possible. So all hands on deck, be ready to go. Your family has to understand what's happening too. So you got to prepare them for that mentally. You also want to understand what they want. What's the thing that matters the most to them? And then you got to find that sweet spot where you can go with enough energy and you understand what your team wants. And then you now got to bring in all the other teams and all the other reps, and they've got their own issues. Wow, that was intense.
First of all, from the player standpoint, you just want to set a baseline, right? That's the goal, is to set a baseline that you're hopefully never going to go below. That means with salaries, that means with healthcare, that means with the way you travel, that means with meals, hotels. You want to set a baseline that you're hopefully never going to go below. So that was the goal. We knew at that time free agency wasn't happening. We weren't flying charters. We weren't getting a $500,000 minimum salary, but the goal was just to try to figure out what the baseline is. And from the owner's standpoint, my guess, I'm not speaking for them, but I'm speaking out of a guess, is that they didn't want the players to continue struggling financially. So they're trying to balance this. How do we keep the league alive and sustainable and not make guys suffer? And looking in Don's eyes at that time, you could tell he was genuine about that. He wasn't just trying to screw us over and get every dollar they could. And ultimately, I think that's what led to everyone agreeing to get the first one done.
I think the first thing for me that I thought in my mind was that the league is getting it together. So if they're able to provide those things, now all of a sudden they are growing and they feel confident enough that they can provide this for players. A lot of guys, right? You can get off of your parents' insurance, right? And things like that. And so now you also start to feel more like a professional.
MLS, America's soccer. Tune in for all the.
And then you have to go sit at the table across from Don and Mark and everybody that run at MLS. And they brought in Ali Curtis, a former player, to make it seem like they were on the player's side, and all these little tactics and strategies that they were doing. It was insane. And so as I stripped away all the emotion from it and looked at it as pragmatically as I could, I knew that this was always going to be a stepping stone for something bigger down the line. But we needed to, even if we had incremental growth on salaries or healthcare or any types of benefits, could there at least be language inside the deal that allows that to be expanded as time goes? That is what this first CBA was about. Obviously, some basic rights that we wanted to get done, but can we put things in place where the next one could stand on our shoulders and really go for it?